Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thank you very much for being here this evening. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Okay, before we begin with roll call, I want to announce that Vice Mayor Emily Lowe and Council Member Marilyn Bernald are participating in this meeting by phone. I'd like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that at least a portion of this City Council meeting is conducted pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953B, as in Baker. In that Vice Mayor Emily Lowe and Council Member Marilyn Bernald are in Long Beach, California. Both Vice Mayor Emily Lowe and Council Member Marilyn Bernald are participating by speakerphone in accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act. Each teleconference location has been identified in the notice and agenda for this meeting. Now I'd like to ask the City Clerk to proceed with roll call and confirm certain matters for the record. Debbie?
Yes, I would like to request that Vice Mayor Lowe and Councilmember Bernald respond to the following questions. Can you both hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to hear the proceedings on this end up until now?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the agenda for the meeting?
We do.
Was the agenda posted at the location of the hotel?
Yes. By the gift shop and down here outside of our meeting room.
Okay. Is your location reasonably accessible to the public, such that any member of the public could participate in this teleconference from your location if they wish to?
Yes.
Is there any member of the public with you?
No.
I would now like to ask that any member of the council speak up at this time if such council member has not been able to clearly hear Vice Mayor Lowe and Council Member Bernald. Okay. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that all council members present have indicated that they were able to hear Vice Mayor Lowe and Council Member Bernald clearly. I would next request that any council member speak up at this time if he has any reason to believe, based on voice recognition or otherwise, that the person representing themselves to be Vice Mayor Lowe and Council Member Bernald are not truly so. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that no council member has expressed doubt that Vice Mayor Lowe and Council Member Bernald are persons participating by teleconference with council members present here. I would now like to advise the council that any votes during the teleconference portion of this meeting must be taken by roll call. And now I'll proceed with the regular roll call. Councilmember Kumar?
Here.
Councilmember Miller?
Here.
Councilmember Bernald?
Here.
Vice Mayor Lowe?
Yes.
Mayor Capello?
Here. Great. Thank you very much. How about now on report posting of the agenda, please?
Okay. The agenda was properly posted on September 30th, 2016.
Great. Thank you very much. We had a joint meeting earlier this evening with each of our school districts in which Saratoga students go for school. And we have a representative from our Saratoga Los Gatos High School District with us. And would you like to, Catherine Sang, and there you go, and Cynthia Chang as well, both representatives from our school board. If you could please report on our joint meeting.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank the City Council for inviting us for us to have this joint meeting. My name is Cynthia Chen. I'm board president of Los Gatos Saratoga High School District. And earlier, we had the opportunity to learn about emergency preparations and communications. And we were giving with a lot of great information, and we also heard about the highlights and also we want to say challenges or opportunities, each schools in the area have experienced. So with that, I really appreciate this opportunity to bring everybody together. Thank you. And Catherine?
Okay. Hello, council member, and then Mayor Capello. Really wanted to get this opportunity to thanks, the council member give us the opportunity for all of our districts serving our Saratoga students, in the same room, and so we can discuss, what is the protocol for the safety plan, what's the emergency drill plan. So we start with the same base for the dialogue, and appreciate this a collaboration effort, from the city and then the school. We work together. That's how, it's the importance, for our students, and especially I think we talk about the traffic issue. I think all the council members already are aware of this issue on that. So we're looking forward to the opportunity to have the discussion, dialogue, and to solve this problem, or at least better or improve the traffic situation on that one. So thank you so much for this opportunity. For this joint meeting, it means a lot for all of us and all our children. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a very productive meeting. And for those of you that go to Prospect, raise your hand. All right, wonderful. Your principal was with us tonight as well, and she shared that she shared that you guys have a homecoming coming up soon. Is that right? Is it this weekend or next week? In 2 weeks. All right, very good. Well, good luck to you guys for each of that. We'll call you guys up later for your signing your document for tonight. Okay, next up is oral communications on non-agendized items. This is where any member of the public may address the council for up to 3 minutes on matters not on the agenda. The law prohibits us from taking action on these items, but we can certainly give direction to staff. I've got 2 slips here in front of me for individuals that have requested to speak. If others would like to do so, you can grab a pink form, it looks like this, from the lobby table, and submit it either end of the dais, and it will get to me, and we can have you come up. First one up to speak, as far as the slip that I have, is Milt Werman. Please.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, and Mr. Taylor. My topic tonight is cameras, possibly a controversial topic. In my neighborhood, which is over near Saratoga, Sunnyvale Road in Cox, where we have 48 houses, we've experienced 4 burglaries, and one was a home invasion. This is all since March of 2015. Fortunately, things have subsided some. We've been trying to figure out a way to make a neighborhood camera system work for us. And there have been different ideas and different costs associated with it. Some of the people have privacy questions. The vast majority of us feel like it's something that we want to do, need to do, and even if we had to do it on a private basis, we'd probably just go ahead and do it. However, what I had understood was that the city, and possibly yourself, Mr. Taylor, were going to be researching the capabilities of cameras and their relative success in other cities, and the costs, the practicality of implementing this across the city, not just in our neighborhood where we have an entrance, 2 entrances, so it's a fairly simple situation. So I had hoped that that was going to be a topic tonight, the research on which would be presented, so we could all evaluate what the merits are, what the cost is, what the relative success is. And I understand it isn't. Petition has been circulated with hundreds of signatures. And I think it's time to really recognize and fulfill the need to research this, because an individual or a neighborhood can't do an adequate job of this. It really is a larger scale issue, and we need more credibility than an individual or a neighborhood could provide. So I guess to sum it up, I don't think we're unique in our neighborhood, and I really hate to see us individually as a neighborhood implement cameras to catch license plates on the two entrances, whereas the other neighborhoods of Saratoga and the entire city hasn't looked into it adequately. There's also the question of privacy, and generally speaking in our neighborhood, our feeling is we would share the images with the sheriff's office and with the city, possibly, and with the neighbors. And that's it. And we wouldn't be obligated or intend to share it with any other entity outside. So I hope this gets on the agenda. I hope it gets researched adequately. I'd like to see it within 2 weeks. I mean, we've had this petition's been going around for 6 weeks. It's not a secret, guys. Mm-hmm. Can't we do something about it? Mr. Taylor, have you done anything about it?
This is an opportunity for you to speak, and then we'll at the end of the session we'll
all right,
address
because
questions.
I'd understood that the city attorney was going to look into it.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Werman. Appreciate it. Next up, Cheryl Jensen.
Thank you, City Council member, Mayor, and Council. Several years ago, when Mr. Swenson got his permission to build 4 houses in the floodplain along Quito Road, I was there when the Planning Commission decided that the power lines would be coming down. And we actually stood there and we said, are these lines going to be coming down? And they said yes. And at the Planning Commission meeting where the project was approved, that was on the list. Well, part of the lines have come down. Part of the poles have been cut off. But in talking now with the building inspector, he doesn't realize that that was ever a condition. And the lines that are there are very ragged looking and very ugly. And I'm just asking if it could be actually something people could look into, because this was supposed to have happened. And so that's my message tonight.
Could I ask just a quick question?
Great. Thank you, Cheryl.
Sure. If you could clarify. So what they did was they put the power lines underground, but they left the cable and the phone wires up there?
Well, it's a very odd mix. Some of the power lines are still up, and some got cut off in the middle. And some of the communication lines are up, and some are still, some apparently got underground. And we kept thinking, and in fact, we talked to the men that were working for PG&E, asked them if they were taking the lines down, and he said yes. But all the lines are not down. They're selling houses. And so it's going to be very hard to enforce this if we don't look on it right away.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you for clarifying, Cheryl.
Great. Thank you. Any other member of the public who wishes to speak on non-agendized items? You can just come on down. If you don't have a pink slip, that's okay. Welcome you and encourage you to speak to us at this time. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close this particular item, and now direction to staff. Howard?
Just a question to jog my memory. I could have sworn about 3 years ago we started advocating for there's a website by which the sheriff's office tracks all of the private cameras in the community, and we started advocating our citizens who have video cameras to register their cameras there. So if there is a crime in your neighborhood, the sheriff could use that video, right?
Yes, that is correct. CrimeReports.com provides a very simple process. There's a button on the front page to register your private surveillance cameras, and that gives the sheriff's office a fantastic tool to not look at your video camera footage, but identify locations of cameras so they can contact you and then request to be able to look at the footage for anything that may have happened within your area.
And a second question, which is the privacy issues. I thought we'd already put the privacy issues to bed. If citizens point cameras at the street, they're perfectly allowed to do that, and they're allowed to record. So there really isn't a legal privacy issue.
There is no city legal or privacy issue related to private surveillance cameras installed on private property. Those cameras may be directed at the public street, and so if you're concerned about what's going on with your neighborhood on the public street, you have a camera system, you may point those cameras and record that activity lawfully.
And then my last question was, a couple of meetings back, I brought up a council item, which was for the city to look at encroachment permit, whether we could adjust the rules for encroachment permits to potentially allow private citizens to place cameras. That's coming back next month or the month after? It's in process someplace, right?
Yeah, that's the research that I was directed to do by the council.
Right.
And that's on the agenda planner for, I believe, the first meeting in December.
Okay, so that's in process.
That is in process.
Okay, great. Because I think those questions probably answered a bunch of the questions that were put, but it doesn't cover all of them, but just so you know what is going on right now.
Okay. Rishi?
Yes, just to add to what Howard was mentioning. So I think, Milt, thank you for coming down today, and you referenced a petition, and I would like to give a link to that petition that everybody, 300 plus signatures have already happened. The link to the petition is, here is the URL. This is really directions. I am. Yep. Yes. It's tinyurl.com/camera petition. So that's the link. But when I look at, and this is, direction to staff that I'm getting to, there are three forms of cameras that we could actually deploy in Saratoga. One is by our citizens that they are putting around their homes, and the crime monitoring, the camera registering site is crimereports.com that James just mentioned. And if you would like to find the details of how do you register, you can go to rishikumar.com/NSW, which is Neighborhood Safety Watch, the acronym for Neighborhood Safety Watch, which is rishikumar.com/NSW. You will find the details of how we register our cameras with Santa Clara County via crimereports.com. That's the agreement that is set up, right? So that's one way we could put cameras. The second way we could put cameras is with neighborhoods looking at options where they are actually putting cameras at the entrance and exit points of the neighborhood to monitor who is coming into the neighborhood. So that's the second option. Now, both of these really do not have, the city council, our city policy does not have much say in that, except that to some extent, the camera cannot be placed on public property, on city-owned land. So that's the only overlap there. But those two options are always there when it comes to putting cameras. The third option is a city-sponsored camera. And with Howard Miller, I just wanted to make a demarcation, because what Howard talked about with the encroachment permit, that would provide an option with number 2, where a neighborhood, where Mill's neighborhood can actually put their, if the encroachment permit was a policy that could be supported by the council, then at that point, Milt would basically get a permit, and then he would be able to put a camera on public property. It would still be done by the neighborhood, but it would be legal to put a camera on public property. The third option, so this was my direction to staff, and is there any specific direction in terms of where we have gone today, where a city-sponsored camera would be possible? Is there a policy today, or is there anything in scope that we see in the near future? James?
So we are currently reacting to the direction that we received from the council, the research that the city's attorney's office, Richard, reported on. There's been no other direction from the city council as a body to staff on this issue.
Yes. And I brought it up a few times in different meetings that we should look at cameras. It might be a good thing, but currently we don't have a policy yet. We don't have something that the council supports. But we are looking at the encroachment permit. Is that the only possibility right now in terms of option 2, where our citizens could actually place their cameras on public property if that encroachment permit is possible? And that's a question, James. Yeah.
And so I guess to answer that question, I'll repeat. The city attorney's office did report out just now on their progress on getting back to the council on the council item that you directed him to research.
Okay, super. Thank you.
And I just assume I saw Irwin move, but somebody's going to double check on the Swinson property conditions to make sure they've all been satisfied vis-a-vis the utilities.
Yes, I have that in my notes to bring back to staff to be able to get back to Sherry L, confirm conditions of approval compliance, and make sure the neighbors are aware of the status.
Good. Okay. All right, very good. Thank you very much. That concludes our oral communications on non-agendized items. Now we'll move on to announcements. And Debbie, help me to understand how I can include both Vice Mayor Emily Lowe and Marilyn Bernald in the announcements portion of our agenda.
Right. I mean, they can hear you, and then they can speak, and it goes, just like these do. And so I would go ahead and start with Councilmember Kumar and Councilmember Miller, and then just like you would usually do your usual order.
All right. So then I'll just call them out individually when their turn comes up. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Rishi, announcements.
Yeah. So we have, an annual event in Saratoga, which is the Witchy Walk. It's happening on Saturday, October 29th, between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. And it's a fun family event, lots of children who show up walking up and down Big Basin Way. And in Jill's absence, because Jill, our former mayor, Jill Hunter, unfortunately had an heart attack, and she is recovering. She is recuperating, and while in her absence, for the first time, she will not be there, which is strange, because she basically initiated this event for our city. It'll be bizarre to not have her there, but we have Leslie Warwick of the Barn Owl, and she's organizing this event. So if any of you would like to volunteer, please contact Leslie Warwick. And she's once again organizing the Village Scarecrow Project. And this is the 4th year she's doing that, and she basically encourages every business and shop to create a scarecrow that reflects the nature of the business. So currently there are about 30 scarecrows that are located up and down Big Basin Way. Go check it out. And it's going to be a very festive day on October 29th with all the kids walking around downtown Saratoga. The other announcement I have is related to petitions. We talked about the camera petition, which is tinyurl.com/camera petition. There are 308 signatures already on that. And there is a petition with water. And I highly recommend Saratogans going and checking it out. That petition is tinyurl.com/Saratoga water petition. And actually next week, the next council meeting on October 19th, we have the topic of water on the agenda. And finally, I would like to call out that meeting of October 19th, which also has a very important component, the agenda, which is a joint meeting between the Neighborhood Safety Watch groups of Saratoga and our City Council and law enforcement, our sheriff services. They are all going to be there, which is on October 19th at 5:30 p.m. This is at the Saratoga Senior Center. It's in the Saunders Room. And we highly recommend that neighborhood safety captains from each of these neighborhood safety efforts that are currently ongoing should attend. And block captains, neighbors, they're all invited to attend. And if you have initiated a process to launch a neighborhood safety watch, and you have been going through the process, then I highly recommend you coming down to this meeting and bringing some information that our law enforcement sheriff services would look at, and they would validate that, yes, you have the structure, and they would certify your neighborhood safety watch program. Now, if you would like to download a template, I've created a template working with about 30 neighborhoods so far. That template is at rishikumar.com/NSW, which is Neighborhood Safety Watch. You'll find a template, a PowerPoint template that you can download, and you can populate with your neighborhood safety leaders, names of neighborhood safety leaders, your block captains, a geographical map that shows your neighborhood, and also the breakout of all the different zones. We don't need too much details in there. The template has the bare bones essentials of what it takes for you to get it certified. And this template has been reviewed by Captain Urena, and it contains the essentials of what you need to get certified. And yes, you will not be presenting anything at the meeting, but just bring a printed format of these information that our sheriff can look at and validate that, yes, you're on track, you have the components of a successful Neighborhood Safety Watch program, and you will get certified. And finally, after you are certified, or even right now, you can actually register through the city. We have established a page, a safety page through the city of Saratoga, where you can where you can go to and provide the information of your Neighborhood Safety Watch, so that our city has that information as well. So we call it the Neighborhood Safety Watch Registry Program. So that's through the City of Saratoga website. There are two components. One is the certification that will be conducted on the 19th. And the registry process, you could do it at any time. If you have initiated a Neighborhood Safety Watch program, you should go out and register. And, just to add to that, Neighborhood Safety Watch program was launched in the U.S. in 1972. It's the least cost-effective, let me change that. It's the least expensive way to mobilize the neighborhood and enhance the safety of our community. And that's why, I've been working all summer. We have initiated about 30 Neighborhood Safety Watch programs, and many of these are planning to be there at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Howard.
Well, I was going to talk about the Neighborhood Safety Watch program meeting that we have set up for next meeting, but that one's been covered in detail. The only other announcement I have, everybody knows every year I run the Silicon Valley Turkey Trot, which is one of the largest turkey trots, if not the largest turkey trot, on Thanksgiving morning. It's run by the Silicon Valley Leadership Foundation, and the proceeds go to housing, health, and food.
Second Harvest Food Bank. Yeah.
Yeah, both in our county and San Benito. Mm-hmm. And so it's a big charity event, and our city always participates. And if anybody is interested in running with me, please contact me. If you're interested in just signing up or donating to this charitable cause, please go check out their website.
Great, thank you. Yes, just to pile on that one, there's a component associated with this turkey trot that takes place on Thanksgiving morning, and it's the Mayor's Cup. And so members of the council, as well as our planning commission and our city manager, can sign up and will win a trophy that we've earned each of the last, how many years, Howard? 6 years running, and so hopefully we can continue it then. Yeah, exactly. We certainly don't want it to not happen this year. It's a great event, great philanthropic fundraiser for many very worthy organizations. So I encourage you to sign up and have some fun Thanksgiving morning. Get some calorie advantage before the Thanksgiving dinner. I was also going to talk about the Neighborhood Watch, but I'll skip that one since it's been covered so well so far, and the Witchy Walkabout. But I do have one that hasn't been miraculously brought up, and that's the Pizza and Politics. October 20th, our Youth Commission, along with the Cupertino and Campbell Teen Commissions, will be hosting a Pizza and Politics event at 7 p.m. at the Quinlan Community Center in Cupertino. Again, this is a political forum in which our teens organize so that they can be part of the process. Civic engagement at its best, and this is all being driven by our Youth Commission, great organization of students, and I'm so proud of what they do. All right, Mary Lynn Bernald, do you have any announcements?
No announcements.
And Vice Mayor Emily Lowe, do you have any announcements?
Yes, I have a quick announcement, and that is regarding the Saratoga Library. I want to remind our residents that there is a adult social hour on every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. That's open to everyone, every adult in our community. As the name implies, it's the adult social hour. So basically, you can get to know one another. There will be some social games, and it's a good opportunity to mingle. So I hope, and of course it's free, so I hope we can see more and more of our residents there. That is on every Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. at Saratoga Library.
Excellent. Thank you very much,
That's
Vice
all I
Mayor.
have.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Hello. One of the things that's been passed to me is that our city website apparently is down, and so if anyone out there is trying to view tonight's meeting, which is typically broadcast live through that website, and are having troubles reaching the site. Of course, they probably won't be hearing this either, but if they're on Comcast or some of the other mechanisms, the KSAR website is still streaming. They're up and running, and you can access the meeting via www.ksar15, the number 15.org. And so hopefully you can find that. If you still can't see it live, it's always available online after the meeting. You can pull it up pretty much for eternity and still be able to watch tonight's proceedings. Okay, this brings us to the consent calendar. Our consent calendar typically contains items that are considered to be routine business. Items in this section may be acted on in one motion, and after we do have a motion and or a second, I'll ask council members if they'd like to make any comments regarding those items. But a member of the public may choose to request an item be pulled from this agenda for discussion as well. So we'll give the public an opportunity to do that at this time. If any member of the public would like to pull an item from our consent calendar, they can come forward and request that. Seeing none, a council member either pull an item or make a motion, please.
I make a motion to move the consent calendar.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and any comments on any of the items from council members?
None.
I'm asking for a comment time.
Okay, Mary Lynn, Bernald, can you please make your comments?
I wanted to comment on consent calendar item 1.4, the amendments to the city's Williamson Act procedures. I just wanted to thank the update that has occurred. I had requested it at the last meeting, and can happily report that it has been updated with wording that is user-friendly and corrected gender-neutral issues, and is far more readable and has corrected some mislabeling things like the mayor, and has been changed to the city manager, and I just really appreciated it. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. If the city clerk could call the vote, please.
Yes, so roll call vote. Councilmember Kumar?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Councilmember Bernald?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Capello?
Yes, thank you very much. Now let's move on to public hearings. Items placed under this section of the agenda are those defined by law as requiring a special notice and public hearing for us and all those that are here today. The first item within the public hearing category is item 2.1. This is an ordinance amending the city code regarding code enforcement related regulations contained in various articles, which will be described here shortly. It will start with a staff report, and we have Erwin Ordonez, our planning director, to do so. Erwin.
Thank you, Mayor, Capello, and Council. The item before you are a series of updates for our code enforcement program, starting with Chapter 3, which is the code enforcement section in the city code, Chapter 9 that talks about licensing for bicycle facilities, and about 4 sections in Chapter 15, which are zoning regulations. These revisions are intended to enhance the city's ability to operate its code enforcement. As you remember, as part of your actions to provide resources to restore a full-time code enforcement officer position to the city, she was able to start a little bit after Labor Day on September 6th, and she's been working very closely with the Attorney's Office and staff to assist us in identifying some of the refinements to the ordinance to allow us to better provide services in terms of the enforcement actions that are necessary. Some of the items that are included here would deal with some of the issues that we've had in the past regarding transit types of violations, for example, signs, barking dogs. I also wanted to stress, as part of these revisions, None of these revisions will change any of your adopted procedures and policies and priorities for code enforcement that you adopted prior to funding the position. In addition, the recommended actions this evening are for you to conduct a public hearing, introduce and waive the first reading of the ordinance, direct staff to place the ordinance and the associated bail schedule on the consent calendar for the next adopted regular meeting of the council. I would also like to add that we did receive last-minute comment from one of your colleagues that identified some additional typos. What you have before you this evening and what was sent out yesterday evening were a copy of, electronic copy of a draft ordinance that would made some of those revisions. We also received communications this evening that on page 2, about 6 paragraphs down, there is one remaining item where it refers to assigns in the list. One of your colleagues suggested that assigns be changed to assignee, and staff is recommending that that also be included as part of your motion this evening with regards to this item.
Can you give me again the reference?
Certainly.
Page?
So it's page 2 of the draft ordinance, about 6 paragraphs down. The paragraph starting persons, means, and includes. Fourth line down where it says assigns, one of your colleagues has suggested that assigns, as a legal art term, to be clearer, should be assignee.
I think it's assignees.
Assignees, rather.
It's like Rusty's.
And in your staff report, we did provide an overview of the changes. I can go into some of those changes in depth if necessary, but this pretty much concludes sort of the higher level review of the ordinance, and I'm available to answer questions and take comments.
Great. Thank you very much, Erwin. Are there any questions for Erwin? Howard.
Just two, and one is sort of out of the blue because you mentioned it in passing. The dog provisions, are we changing them or are we just clarifying the way the rules work?
We are making a slight change in that when a dog barks, it's a potential transient violation. The way our current code is written, we could not cite the owner of the dog as it is. We would have to provide notice, and there would have to be appeal rights for that process. With one of the changes, this would allow us to be able to go ahead and actually write a citation on site.
Mm-hmm. Can you add just to that, just to explain what the ordinance does? Because what you said was if a dog barks, we can cite the owner, and I don't want somebody to think that if a dog barks once,
right.
and they're walking down the street and you know, that we're going to cite them in some way. Just for clarification.
Sure.
Purposes,
so the current code enforcement section and then the animal sections in the code talk about noise from animals. And one of the noise producers would be barking dogs. And the city's policy right now is that if there is a law enforcement officer or a staff member that documents that, that's enough for us to be able to take action. And normally we would write a violation. If it's an individual party reporting it, the city's policy right now is to require 2 parties to substantiate that. And the approach that Saratoga takes is we're not a community that automatically goes to violations. Our approach in Saratoga is to really start off first with education and make contact. So the very first thing that would happen is that if you had a code enforcement officer hearing a barking dog, talk to the owner of the dog, let them know about the ordinance, perhaps provide a section and say, you know, we have this section that governs it. You may want to take measures to make sure that the dog is not barking and it isn't creating a nuisance. If there are subsequent complaints and the officer was able to substantiate, that would be the time that we would, under this or these changes, that we would be able to use that to be able to do the citation. But the very first thing is always education. And even then in Saratoga, there's usually between that education piece, there might be even a courtesy letter before we actually do get to the citation point.
Great. Thank you. Howard?
You didn't help me, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now I'm more confused. What is the change?
So the change is in the current code for a use like that, if we happen to come across that, we would have had to provide notice that we were going to do a violation, and they could basically appeal the violation before we could actually start any form of citation, regardless of whether or not we did any education or courtesy notice. Because once we write a notice of violation, the current code says that we have to provide notice to the owner of the animal, and they would have a right to appeal that notice.
So now, again,
so now what would happen
I'm
is
misinterpreting. There's the procedure. I got the procedure, right. But are you telling me the way this is written, we could show up, hear a dog bark, and cite?
We could, but your policy.
But that's the way it's written.
But your policy as a council, in terms of how you want staff to operate, is to do education first and do the sort of soft touch approach with our residents before we stepped up to formal code enforcement.
So why are we changing the ordinance to be more aggressive than what our policy is?
So what we're doing is we're putting in place the tools to actually be able to do the citation, because what would have happened under the existing code is you could still do the education piece, you could do the notice piece, somebody could ignore it, and then you would still have to go and do a written notice of violation. They could appeal that, and there would be no fines at all issued to anybody yet.
Yet, but we still could cite them after that.
After that, you could.
So what we've done is we've removed the middle part of the due process, which is this opportunity for them to get a notice and appeal the notice.
But one of the things that we also have included as part of this process is we've looked at the appeal fees and the appeals process. So currently, under our appeals section of the code, in our fee schedule, we have an appeal fee, but in terms of our hearing process, you have to pay your fines in advance if you are cited. And when you get to a hearing, there's no mechanism for you to get back your appeal fee once you paid your fines. You could only get back your fines. As part of our revisions, there's now a process as part of that hearing process that if the violation is not substantiated, the hearing officer not only is able to give you back your administrative fines, but also potentially could refund back your fees. Mm-hmm. So you could maybe be made whole.
Our city manager has some clarifications for us as well.
Okay, great.
To touch specifically on the point of due process, as we reactivated the code enforcement program over this past year with the council's direction, there were two particular types of violations that came across our desks, and they're what in the legal parlance they're called transient violations. And what we found was that these very short-term violations, and this would be specifically freestanding off-site signs in our community on the weekends, and barking dogs were two cases where we had problems that reoccurred, meaning that neighbors were not getting satisfied that the issues were being resolved, both in the signage front and in the barking dog front. When we went to go administer our enforcement tools, we found we could not do so the way that our code was structured, because we had to give at every opportunity the owner of the sign or the owner of the animal an opportunity to mitigate at each occurrence. So there was really no penalty in our ordinance for bad behavior. That's the third or fourth step down the line, as Erwin was mentioning. We always try the education, the enforcement, the education, the reassurance, the resources, and at the last resort, we use an enforcement tool. What has been put in place as strategic here for the transient violations is an ability that for a reoccurring problematic case, that we've gone through all of our normal high-touch process, where we have made the decision that the citation is now going to be the appropriate tool to use. The amendments before you tonight will allow us to use the tool where currently we cannot. We have to continue to allow the sign violator an opportunity to remove their sign before we can provide any type of penalty. the dog owner can continue to not address the situation and have the problem in the neighborhood without us being able to address the situation to escalate it to a different level. We don't have those occasions come across our desk very often. This is not something, by all means, that we're going to be go out and writing a bunch of tickets, because that was a very strong direction from the City Council in restating this program, that now that we have a code official, we are not going to go out and start, writing citizens tickets. What we found is there was a tool we thought we could use, but when we reactivated the program, we found that we couldn't quite use it in the way we had thought we could, and now we're asking for some changes for us to actually use the tool the way we had thought we could when we first put it in place. I'm hoping that clarifies the matter.
No, that clarifies it a lot. Now my second question. That was the one easy one. Now let me ask the hard question I've got here. No, I'm kind of wondering, we got the table for the bails, and, I'll pick the first one because I've never ever heard of it even being used. Contempt of City Council used to be $100. Countywide, it's $100, and we want to change it to $1,000. Why do we choose such high amounts for most of our items? A bunch of them are 100, 200, 500, which has kind of been one of our stock things for several years now. But I'm wondering why we pushed so many of these other ones up to be the highest in the county and often 10x what our current is.
Those are items that, and I may need some help also from the attorney's office on this, but those are items that, as part of the bail schedule, were identified as what we could legally charge up to, potentially. And so the decision was made to go up to the maximums that we were allowed.
So this is a project we've been working on. The bail schedules are typically are administered by the court. We have not looked at our bail schedule in over 10 or maybe even 15 or 20 years. And this is for real bail. This is when when the sheriff has arrested someone for a violation of our code and put them in jail, and they want to get out of jail. And that is not the sort of thing that hasn't happened in the last 15 years. The only time it would happen, where it might happen, is if somebody has a code violation and they fail to appear, then the court issues its own citation, if you will, for failure to appear. And if that person gets stopped or pulled over, they'll have the violation for the failure to appear, or if they come and are in contempt of City Council, they'll have the failure to appear plus our thing. And at that point, they will be put in jail. And we just felt that for the city, these are serious violations, and we want to be able to ask for the maximum that we can. It doesn't mean we have to. Again, we are working to create code so that we have the leverage to pursue whatever enforcement is appropriate within the confines, as Irwin said, of the council's overall enforcement policy of high touch.
So this isn't what the actual bail must be. This is just the maximum that it could be.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Those are my two questions. Boy, those were my 10 seconds of questions. They were more than I thought. Thank you, Aaron.
Great. Any other questions for staff? Emily?
Hello?
Yeah, Emily and Mary Lynn, do you have any questions for staff?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of questions. Number one, with regard to appeal, is there anywhere that says about the duration? I mean, within what period can the responsible party appeal in order to get heard?
Councilmember Lowe, this is Erwin Ordonez, Community Development Director. My understanding in most of our appeal sections that go through the enforcement, it's a 15-day period, which is consistent with also a lot of our city code processes.
Okay, so it's in the ordinance?
Yes.
In the current ordinance. And then my second question is, I just want to make sure I understand the whole procedure as far as code enforcement is concerned. Number one is still on a complaint basis, is that right?
That's correct. So, yeah, that's correct. Based on the council adopted policy, it's complaint basis, and then we step through the process that was put together by council and authorized by council, which just starts with education.
So, and then further on, as far as procedure is concerned, the first step that our code enforcement officer undertake is education and communication first, right?
That's correct.
And then if we still see non-compliance, then there will be a record notice of violation or possibly some kind of an administrative citation per occurrence.
That's correct.
Possible.
And then if we still see non-compliance, then it will escalate into maybe hearing procedure, like from the hearing officer and the bail.
It actually could be a charging of administrative fines, or there may be a notice of violation recorded on the property, and there would be notice provided for those. And what would happen is the responsible party would respond back to that and could appeal the notice of violation, and then it would go to the administrative hearing that you referenced.
I see. Okay. So it will be several checkpoints before the responsible party will actually see the bail schedule.
Again, the bail schedule would only be when you ended up, as my understanding, and the city attorney can clarify, is that your action before the courts, because the administrative hearing process is actually an attorney that is retained by the city to hear the administrative appeal. And what they would do is they would review not only the circumstances of the case, but they would also look at the fines paid and the appeal fee paid, and that if the violation was not substantiated, they would have the ability to refund both the fines and the appeal fee. So
and they're mostly criminal in nature? Criminal offense?
For criminal, if you did get to court, that's when the bail schedule would come into play.
And just to clarify it, it's not even if you get to court, it's if you end up in jail. So if there's, and we had one situation years ago where somebody was repeatedly ignoring we had successive notice of violations, and they would not cure what we asked them to do, and they would make the problem worse. And as we were getting ready to do something, the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration came in and arrested the person and put him in jail, where I believe he still is. And he was building a series of safes for what we assume were his drug business in the basement in violation. So in that situation, but we've never before had a situation, and even then we didn't get to it, where we were approaching using the bail.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right. Any further questions?
I do have a question.
Oh, okay, good. Mary Lynn?
Mayor?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry. Is it okay for me to speak now?
Yes, Mary Lynn, go ahead and speak.
Okay, thank you. I am back on the bail schedule, and I've been rolling through the items that are being named. And one of them is something that we've discussed outside of council, and that has to do with beekeeping. And I'm wondering if we have anything coming up to be agendized regarding beekeeping, given the fact that the bees are dying and other cities are actually trying to promote beekeeping in our area. So is this something that is up for discussion for the future?
We have currently not received any direction to agendize an ordinance, but we clearly have council items at the end of this meeting to receive such a direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Seeing no further questions from council, we'll open up the public hearing at this time. Any member of the public who wishes to speak on this particular item may come forward at this time.
I did also want to clarify that with regards to the Chapter 15 zoning regulation chapters, we do have the chair of the Planning Commission here, Chair Smullen, that can answer any questions and provide perspective if needed for council.
Great. Thank you. Any member of the public wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll close. You want to speak, or do you want us to ask you questions relative to this?
I just wanted to, Dee Smullen, Planning Commission
Please.
Chair. We did hold a noticed workshop on the zoning ordinance sections. It was not well attended, but we did discuss it, and we presented what we felt was the direction of the City Council. So,
Okay.
If you have any other questions, I'd be
Great.
happy to help.
Thank you. Perfect. Don't go too far in case we have any questions for you. Okay, we'll close the public hearing and now open it up to discussion and or motion. Howard?
Sure, I'm happy with where we've gone. General comments, Dee Dee mentioned it, but thank you to the Planning Commission for following our normal process, making sure we got the public engaged. I worry a lot about having rules that put neighbors in places to club other neighbors rather than talk to their neighbors. And I have had people call me and say, oh, this is the issue with my neighbor. And I'm like, what'd your neighbor say? Well, I haven't talked to them. And that's the last thing that we want. We really want to have a city where neighbors are talking to neighbors to sort out problems. And I get it, some things can't be sorted out, and having an enforcement officer that we now have and updating our rules so that the policies that we want as a council can actually be implemented successfully on the ground matters. I get the deal on the bail schedule being a maximum. And I would make a motion, but it's going to be extremely complicated, I think, because the motion is the staff recommendation and the staff report substituting the desk copy with the additional ease added in the fourth paragraph of page 2. Mm-hmm. And that would be my motion.
And I second that.
Okay, good. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Emily, Mary Lynn, this is your opportunity now to speak on it if you like.
Would you restate the motion, please?
The staff report with the substitution of using the desk copy and making that one typo correction of the ease on page 2, paragraph 4.
I've got a question. The desk copy has all the corrections that you had mentioned that were brought up to you prior to tonight's meeting, other than the ease.
Yes, that is correct, with the exception of the assignees section. I believe it's paragraph 6.
Yes.
Oh, paragraph 6.
Yes. Okay. Is the motion clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'd like to just add a couple of comments. Code enforcement is a tool that can be used in many different ways, one of which is to foster that communication where there isn't communication between neighbors. And also, one of the guiding principles, our policy statements relative to this that we gave to staff, and I'm very happy to see that it is included and maintained within this document, is that we have a very soft touch approach to code enforcement in Saratoga. It's not about coming out with the ticket pad and immediately giving people violations with fees associated with them, but it's more of a, like you said, a communication tool, an educational tool. It's more about building awareness and fostering that communication between neighbors such that if and when we ever have to go to the citation period, all those other efforts have been exhausted prior to it. And so that has continued to be in here. That's been our approach in Saratoga. It's been successful in the past, and I'm happy to see that it's maintained. All right, we'll call the question at this time. And once again, City Clerk, if you can conduct the roll call vote, please.
Yes, a roll call vote for approval of the motion for the public hearing. Councilmember Kumar?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Aye.
Councilmember Bernald?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lowe?
Aye.
And Mayor Capello?
Aye. Great. Thank you very much. Passes unanimously. Now we'll move on to new business. Item 4.1 is a citywide transportation needs assessment work plan. And once again, we'll start with staff report. And we have our Public Works Director, John Scherbone, to provide us with that report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As part of the fiscal year 2016-17 budget, the City Council set aside $50,000 to conduct a citywide transportation needs assessment. The project was funded for the purpose of better understanding transportation needs in the city, including the needs of Saratoga's aging population. As transportation needs evolve over time, mainly in response to changes in demographics and the strength of the local economy, Saratoga's circulation element of the general plan discusses the existing state of the transportation network along with policies that guide future improvements. External impacts of a strong economy and demographic changes like an aging population make the next update to the circulation element an important one. And proactively, the City Council approved funding in the budget to commission the citywide transportation needs assessment, which will be incorporated in our next circulation element update in 2017. Attached to your report is a proposal from the city's traffic engineer, Fair and Piers. It outlines a methodology to determine Saratoga's transportation needs by studying the traffic patterns of residents and those that work in the city. There's a 5-task definition of their proposal. Task 1 documents the city's existing transportation network, including gaps in the network. Task 2 compiles trip origin and destination data that identifies major destinations within Saratoga and surrounding jurisdictions. Task 3 will assess travel characteristics, determine how residents travel. It will be accomplished by compiling existing data from federal, state, and local travel surveys, as well as surveys of West Valley College Transit Center and the Village. In addition, major employers like Apple, Google, and Facebook will be contacted to determine their ridership on their private buses. Task 4 assesses transportation needs of the city by compiling all the data, finding all the opportunities and constraints that can be identified for improvements to the network. Task 5 will produce the final study and will summarize the transportation needs in the city, options to improve the network to be more accessible to a wider range of users, including first and last mile connectivity. The fee for that work is a flat fee of $34,000. Again, much of the data analysis of the report can be used in the update to the circulation element of the general plan proposed for 2017. As part of the assessment, staff is also proposing a pilot program to better understand senior transportation needs. One of the council priorities that was identified in the retreat in February 2016. Throughout the senior taxi pilot, 20 Saratoga residents aged 65 or older that cannot drive would be selected to participate in a cost-sharing, on-demand taxi service for a period of 6 weeks. The total program cost to the city would be $5,500 plus staff time. Each participant would pay $50 for a total of $325 taxi ride credits. Participants would be able to use the ride credit however they choose until the credits run out or the 6-week pilot ends. There would be no limit to the frequency of use or trip length that rides can be booked in advance or as needed. All participant ride information, including pickup and drop-off destination, time and day of travel, ride costs, ride distance, would be collected by the service provider and provided to the city. This data will be incorporated into a citywide transportation needs assessment to better understand the transportation patterns and needs of the community. If the program is authorized, the city would begin accepting applications in October, and participants would be selected by city staff and SASE executive director in early November. At the conclusion of the program, all participants will be surveyed to get a better understanding of their experience. If the work plan is approved, including the senior taxi pilot, the assessment would be completed by early 2017. The total cost of the proposed work plan is $39,500, which includes $5,500 for the pilot program and $34,000 for the Fair and Piers report. That concludes my information. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, John. Howard?
Yeah, this particular item was sort of a composite of things I was working on and things Manny were working on to really try to understand what's going on within our city vis-a-vis traffic, transportation, circulation. But John, there was one other element, and I think it's covered in point number 5, but I just want to be more clear about it. There are a lot of people who travel through our city. So they don't stop here, but they're coming through, be it Highway 9 or cutting down Keto or coming through on Highway 85. There's a lot of data sources, VTA and MTC, that kind of collect all that. Are we going to get some sort of analysis that gives us some insight into that as well?
Yes.
I think that will help us drive certain transit decisions regionally. And then you mentioned talking to the employers, but MTC just did a report on the corporate buses, the 35,000 riders a day. So I think part of your plan was to talk to MTC also, so maybe the corporate thing could be added to the MTC
Yeah,
questions.
and I think what we also want to do is to find out where Saratogans are living, where they're being picked up in the city, and we want to make sure that we know all that information.
There might be one further question, which is, for example, there is no Apple bus from Saratoga, but if Apple wanted to have a bus, where are they thinking about proposing? Because I don't know what that company does, Sure. They might have some plan, and maybe they would be willing to actually work with us to come up with a plan that would work for us and them, or any of the other high-tech companies. And then on the local, just on the experiment, John. Mm-hmm. So we'll run this experiment, which will be totally awesome, and out of that we will collect data to say how to expand or change that program. I guess. And then the last one is just the Manny would ask this question, so I'm really asking it for him. This whole transportation analysis, this will satisfy some of the requirements on the age-friendly city initiative that's been led by our mayor, right?
Definitely.
Okay, excellent. Those were my questions. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Rishi?
So, I think the question I had, John, was in terms of the roadmap. After we get through the pilot early next year, where do we take this? And then also specifically the impact of Measure B, possibly if that gets passed, we might have access to some extra funding. And do you see any correlation there or anything that you would like to highlight?
Definitely. If Measure B or local transportation tax measure passes, there is funding in there for a variety of programs that we're going to be trying to tap into. That includes last mile connectivity, so that way folks are able to get from their home to the transportation system that's available today. Right now you have a lot of gaps in terms of being able to get to the transit to be able to go somewhere, because a lot of times it's too far. You can't walk, perhaps, or you can't drive, and that means the transportation system doesn't work for you. And so a lot of that research and is being done by VTA as well. So it's a growing trend to try to solve. So definitely, yes.
And the roadmap, in terms of where do we take that findings, where do we go next?
Well, I think we'll determine how, if the pilot program is popular here in the city and we see that there's a demand, then I think the council will be able to decide whether they wanted to continue that locally, funding it continually in our own way, and then wait for grants to maybe make that a larger program. Perhaps, we just have to wait and see how well, people receive the program and see how if people are using it to their advantage.
Yep. So, one of the concerns that I keep hearing from the seniors is there is only a single bus route, and in the weekend we don't have a bus route at all. So I think they are significantly hampered in terms of their mobility in case they do not drive. So that's been a challenge. And, when I look at basically the overall the commercial climate that we have in our city, I think having a shuttle, the other component of this is the feedback that if we had a shuttle, that would help kind of improve the business climate of our city as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been a while, but we've always been advocating a local shuttle for Saratoga, Campbell and Los Gatos that would basically circle our downtown areas and provide a way for all of our citizens on all three local West Valley cities, and Cupertino too, to be able to, although their downtown is not as specific as the rest of ours, but it's something that it would benefit all of us to be able to have the ability for everybody to easily be able to get to each of our downtowns and commercial areas to provide, that crossover of people buying things and so forth.
Yep. Now, similar cases, right? So similar size cities like Saratoga they embarked on a plan. Like I've heard stories in Modesto, they have these pretty fancy buses, 20 buses, $1 million each. Mm-hmm. That's the investment they have made to help with transportation. But our city is kind of hampered from a budget standpoint, right? So, I mean, what are the analogies that you're looking at, perhaps locally or in California, where folks have rolled something out effectively in a fairly, kind of budgetary conscious way?
Yeah. Well, again, I think transportation is expensive. As you just said, buses are beyond the ability for a city our size to buy it, and therefore we depend a lot on our local transportation agencies like VTA to provide those needs for us, because every citizen pays their taxes in this city as well as any of the other cities to get buses and other kinds of transportation improvements here in Saratoga as well as the other cities. So we have to continue to be forceful and to make sure that our voice is heard at VTA, and that things have to be equitable, and that just because we don't have high ridership doesn't mean we shouldn't have bus routes. Those are the kind of things that we should be looking at, as well as leveraging the funds that are being, if these funding comes forward, leveraging with ideas that we could implement as pilot programs in our own city, and using the information from this taxi ride service that we're doing will help us be able to feel confident when we go out for larger grants, perhaps for a bigger program like that, because I think that's what we're going to be looking at, is probably doing something like we're doing in the pilot program, because you're leveraging a private infrastructure like taxis and Uber and other kinds of things that we don't have to pay for, but if we subsidize or help our riders be able to use those and leverage then the larger existing system that we have to our advantage, then we can get as close as we can to, enabling mobility, from our citizens who may not be able to, drive.
So a direction for this after the pilot would be potentially looking at grants from like VTA and similar organizations to provide that opportunity for us to have that shuttle service in our city.
Yeah, and make sure that this program is the one we want to try. If it's successful, we want to see if we can make it larger and make it available to more people at a longer period of time. And perhaps we could get grants for those things, but to show the data that it works, and it'll give us confidence to be able to go do it. Why, if it doesn't and it's not popular, then maybe that's just not the right thing to do. We need to think of something else.
Mary Lynn Bernald, do you have any questions for staff on this item?
I don't at this point. I think the questions that I had have already been brought up, but I do believe Emily has some questions.
Okay. Vice Mayor Emily Lowe, questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions for John. Number one, I suppose that, and this is with regard to the pilot program, I suppose that it is confined, the rides are confined within Saratoga. Is that right?
So, Emily, this is James, and the way that the program is being proposed to you this evening is that the rides would be unlimited, except for the capacity that's on the ride card that we would give the senior. And so the card would have a ride value of approximately $325, and they could use that value in whatever means met their needs within the 6-week program.
I see. So it's not confined to Saratoga.
No, it would only be confined to Saratoga seniors who live in Saratoga.
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
But the transportation would not be confined.
So, I mean, the destination is not confined to Saratoga.
That is correct.
And the second question is about share ride. Say if a couple wants to take the ride, do they have to have two cards, or can any card holder take care of that by their own card? And so the second passenger do not have to pay extra.
That is correct. If the senior has a companion that would like to ride with them, that companion would not be any additional charge. And so the way that the yellow cab operates their system is that it is just for the ride and is not based on number of passengers.
I see. And if they want to pick up somebody to go to that destination, they will use the card to pay for whatever fees that is being incurred, right?
And so, if I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, could you repeat that question?
Yes. So, say if the rider wants to pick up a friend, say a couple blocks down the street, to go to the same destination, they can still use the card for that purpose. Is that right?
Yes, they can use the card for that purpose.
And it might cost more if they have to pick up several people in the same car.
It would only cost more as it relates to time and mileage, because that's how the taxi program would work, not based on the number of passengers.
I see. And then how long do you think the pilot program will last? I know it depends on how much. Yes. So how do you define the period?
We're proposing
after the 325 credits being used up.
We're proposing a 6-week period, and the program for an individual who's participating, the program would end when one of two things happens. Either they run out of the ride credits of $325, they spent it all, or 6 weeks has gone by and the program ends.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
May I take a turn now?
Sure. Marilyn Bernal, please.
I'm wondering if we could hear about how the selection process is going to work.
Okay.
Or has that been determined?
It has been defined to date that, assuming that we receive approval this evening to start, that we would create the application form, and that we would find through different advertising methods, through both the city and through the senior center, applicants who are interested in participating in our program. The program criteria so far we've defined is age 65 or older, Saratoga resident, and they do not drive, and that they are willing to participate in survey information and share with us different demographic information and their travel behaviors. And that both city staff, in partnership with the senior center, would then select the 20 applicants during an application period, which would commence at the middle of this month. The application period would anticipate running through the month of October. We would hope to select the applicants in partnership with the senior center beginning of November, and then start kicking off the program.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any further questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up. I'm sorry?
I'm good.
Okay, good. Thank you. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing now to anyone that wishes to speak on this particular item may come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for discussion and or motion. Howard?
Yeah, I'm excited about this particular program. As some of you know, right, I spent a little bit of time hanging out with the VTA guys, and 7 years has taught me that they own all the data. And while they do give us the data and we can ask VTA staff, and we often do for sorts of reports and cuts and spins on the data, the difficulty for me in representing our city is to get city-specific information. I've got facts and figures about people going through our city and buses and light rail and all kinds of exciting stuff. And some of it is Saratoga specific, but some of it's very general. And being able to get the drill down in the data, and all of this already exists in the data set, but getting our traffic engineers to drill down in the data a little bit to give us more specifics and more context for those that are coming through our city or those that are coming to our city. Think the 7,000 college students that have to land at our junior college every day, not to mention all the workers, or all of our high-tech employee citizens that are employees of companies in Mountain View and Santa Clara and San Jose or Cupertino. How many of those people are using Lawrence Expressway or stuck on 85 or whatever? It helps me be in a much better position to negotiate for specific solutions. And as you know, the Highway 85 Policy Advisory Board is, well, I don't want to say right in the middle. We're probably 1/3 of the way into the assessment of what the different sorts of transportation options could be on Highway 85, and we all recognize as a group that it's not just about what's on Highway 85, it's about how we get people onto that transportation corridor. So our internal focus, which is going to give us data on sort of first mile, last mile stuff. How do you get from your house in Saratoga where there's no sidewalks to like a transit station somewhere near Highway 85, understanding where people live and where they need to go every day and how they're getting there will help us make much more enlightened decisions. So I am super, super excited about that part of the assessment. The internal stuff and the assessment for local transit and seniors, I'll make two comments, and I don't know if we want to change this, but I know VTA has done some assessments, and some of the experiments they've done actually have proven to maybe not be the right answer. And so while we have this great experiment set up, I don't know if we want to fund it today, but I think we should all have in our minds that we may do an experiment to gather enough data to tell us what the next experiment may be. And I want everybody to realize this is not going to be a one-shot and we're done. This is the first experiment, and it may be brilliant and it may hit the nail on the head, or it may be a data point on a process to try some different things. And so I want citizens to sort of be patient, because nothing in transportation happens quickly, and I want us to sort of, in our hearts at least, commit to seeing this to the end, both the stuff that's on Highway 85, the transit stuff that's going on in the valley, the Measure B stuff that Rishi talked about, our local transportation needs, the possibility of a shuttle or door-to-door service, our senior focus, maybe we can figure out a youth focus. This is going to be an ongoing issue, and I'm excited to have the experience and the background and the expertise to help make this stuff come together. And with that, I want to propose, in support of our mayor, who I got to point out, this is Manny and I together, putting our heads together, saying how can we get the most bang for our city's buck. This is a real twofer here. I want to move the staff recommendation, which is going to authorize us to spend the $34,000 to get going on this assessment and this pilot program for our seniors.
And I second on behalf of Manny, but I'm seconding.
Very good. Thank you. Further discussion?
Yes,
Mary Lynn?
yes, please.
Okay, Mary Lynn, please.
Maddie, may I speak? I'm sorry, we're not hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? I take it not. Mary Lynn?
You cut out. I'm sorry.
Mary Lynn, go ahead and speak. We can hear you.
Thank you. I agree with what I've heard. I also want to add that Emily Lowe and I have been working on trying to figure out for a year bus shuttle services, which were not accessible given our budget, and so this adds to that effort that we've put into it. And also, it provides an excellent opportunity to update our transportation network, not only for the users, but for our circulation element, and that's going to be updating that and be very beneficial for the future. As you said, it IDs the major trip origins and destination data and the travel characteristics, And this should lead to future improvement for Saratoga Transportation Network and that last mile issue that we've been dealing with. I'm excited, too, because our taking this on has had some influence and inspiration for other cities. There are other individuals on other councils that are talking about this, and I think this will provide a tremendous opportunity for not just for Saratoga and not just for our seniors, but for getting something that is user-friendly for our at least 5, I hope, maybe 6 cities in our area. So I am very excited about being able to support this tonight. Hello?
Yes, please. Emily Lowe, go ahead.
Yes. So I have been interacting with a lot of seniors throughout these years and heard about the challenge of mobility. So assuming if we approve the pilot study, I'm hoping that the sample that we select can cover different geographical areas in Saratoga as well as the different ethnic background so that it can be more representative. And what else? And I'm hoping that the method used to execute the plan would be user-friendly and something that the seniors feel comfortable with. So that's all I want to know. I think mobility is very important to senior because it entails a quality of life. And that leads to a lot of enhancement in life, including social interaction. So I'm excited and cautious at the same time. Excited because we finally get something started, and cautious on the other hand, because after the pilot study, it may come up with some numbers and some options that are really budget contingent. But I think it's important to take the first steps and then explore the options moving forward. So I'm excited and I'm looking forward to getting it started.
Very good. Thank you very much. Rishi, and then Howard.
So, I think hearing everyone talk, it seems like this is a great win-win for a city because all of us have been thinking of a shuttle service, transportation. And transportation over the last 5, 6 years, 10 years has just worsened. It's so much more difficult to get out of Saratoga, to get into Saratoga, and having a shuttle service internally, specifically for seniors, it's an absolute win-win with all the depleted services from VTA due to all the budgetary challenges and everything else, and also utilization, right? So there are many components of the challenge that we are looking to address. I think it's a good win. It's a good win-win. Now, also, what I'm really also kind of looking forward to is Howard's leadership on this, because Howard is Mr. VTA. I mean, he probably has been doing this for, 8 years now, 8th year as the VTA representative. So he's got a lot of experience, insight that he brings to the table. And this is timely because, I think it demonstrates the strategic viewpoint of our city council in terms of looking at a solution, but more taking into account some of the existing measures that are coming up and planning ahead. And so this pilot, when it gets done in early January, and if Measure B passes, we'll be ready. We'll be ready for the code killing and hopefully create something good, and Howard's leadership would be absolutely key for that. And I think the one thing I really am delighted about, it's going to be really good for seniors. If we can implement a program like this, I think, a senior-friendly city, I think it's a huge value add.
Great. Thank you. Howard?
I just wanted to address the future funding challenge. Everybody's got it on the mind. I should just point out that Measure B has $500 million, which will be spread out over 30 years, which is earmarked for senior and underprivileged transportation. And I think some of that money will be spent in ways that are competitive, grant And I think having data to say our seniors are using this much transportation in our city gives us a chance to try and see if there's a way to get into that early. So it may not be that it's city funded, but getting this data will help us drive other things that are going on within VTA, including some earmarked money specifically for senior transportation. And again, just the parts that I was most interested in initially, I'm interested in it all, was this will help us drive the discussions about what to do on Highway 85 for transit, and it'll help us drive discussions about first and last mile within our own city. So again, there's so many different wins. And don't worry too much about the money, because I think if we can prove a need, that will enable staff and those of us working in different agencies to find different sources of funding. Manny has turned up the most money for seniors in the last 4 or 5 years. So maybe Manny's got a trick here with the county or with HUD or whoever. There will be multiple ways for us to solve the problem once we can document the need.
Rishi.
Yes, I'm going to speak for only 30 seconds about Measure B, because we have been referencing Measure B. Please read up on Measure B. But it's a half-cent gasoline tax that we are adding on.
No, it's a sales
tax. Sorry, sales tax for Santa Clara County, and that would result into about $40 million per year. That equates to about $6 billion over the next 15 years. And then you add on to another $14 billion from federal government. You're looking at $20 billion that could be invested right here for us, and some of that money could be used for this particular project. So I think it's a good story that is playing out, and we'll see how Measure B plays out.
Great, thank you. Okay, my comments are, this is a two-pronged effort. One is to help us better prepare for our circulation element, which is going to be updated next year, and it's going to put us in a really great position in order to create a circulation element that includes all the different modes of transportation. And then, of course, it helps us in our age-friendly initiative, which was brought up by Howard earlier. Age-friendly initiative is one in which we are creating an environment within our city in which seniors can age in their home for as long as possible. Transportation is the number one area of need that our seniors have repeatedly been asking for us. And so this pilot program is our way to put something in place and start gathering the data to understand what the true need is relative to our senior transportation problems. But I would refrain us from jumping into the solutions before we've collected the data. It's important that we look at the data, and like Howard had mentioned, this could be the first step of what may end up to be multiple steps in order to collect the data and have a program that we can build on later. So let's not look at solutions right now. We can keep them in the back of our minds, but we shouldn't jump to conclusions at this time. So with that said, we've got a motion, we've got a second. We'll call the vote at this time, and Debbie, if you could do the roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Kumar?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Aye.
Councilmember Bernald?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Capello?
Aye. Okay, once again, it passes unanimously. And what I'd like to do at this time, before we go on to City Council assignment reports, is ask our students from Prospect to come on up here. So Mary Lynn and Emily, this will be kind of strange and difficult to follow along, but we're going to bring the students up now, and then we'll alert you when we're proceeding on with the rest of the agenda. So students, come on down with your paperwork and come see me.
I want to get my shot before they go.
Yeah, me too. There you go. I'm going to hide these. Come on up, hustle. Join me right here. How are you?
Huh?
How are you?
Good.
Normally we actually never start that, right? So this is
All right, great. So we've got our Prospect High School students with us tonight, which is a wonderful thing. We love it when you guys come and visit us because we get some great insights from you. Not to mention you get credit for your class. What I'd like you to, and this is a poli-sci class that you guys have? Or government's class, okay. What I'd like you to do when I hand you the mic is give us your name, first and last name, and tell me what mode of transportation do you typically take to school? Okay? This can be a car, it could be a bus, it could be riding bike, it could be on foot, it could be, whatever. Okay? Just tell us that, and then you can proceed on to Debbie. She'll go ahead and stamp your form, and we'll be done. Okay? Here we go.
My name is Kim. I'm a senior, and my mom takes me to school.
In what kind of mode of transportation? A car?
A car.
All right,
yeah.
Very good.
My name is Angel, and my sister takes me by car.
Okay, very good. Pass it
My name's Andrew, and I drive a car to school.
Drive a car, very good. Thank you, Andrew.
I'm Vladimir Kozinets, and I drive a car to school.
Okay, a car.
I'm Sierra Dredge, and I drive myself to school.
All right, thank you.
Where do I look at? Do I look anywhere?
Huh? Just right up here. The camera is right. One of those black things up there.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Name's Scott Cadden. I walk to school.
Walk, yay.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
I'm Ashley, and I walk.
You walk? Very good. Thank you for saving greenhouse gases.
My name is Manuel, and I carpool.
Carpool, yeah. Very good. Well done. Thank you very much. Come on up.
I'm Stephanie Lindsay, and I drive myself.
Oh, very good. All right, thank you.
I'm Thea Preek, and I drive to school.
Drive to school. Very good.
I'm Mahek Sharma. I'm sorry. I'm Mahek Sharma, and I usually am driven to school, or sometimes I walk.
Okay, very good. And you're on the mock trial as well?
I am on the mock
trial. Oh, very good. Well done. Excellent.
I'm Melody Sweeney, and I drive to school.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm Nick Connor, and I get driven.
Driven. All right, thank you. And last but not least, here we go.
I'm Jordan McAllister, and I walk to school.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much, Prospect High School students. We really appreciate you coming down and visiting us this evening. Okay, we'll continue on with our meeting now. Mary Lynn and Emily, can you hear me?
We can.
All right, very good. Now we're moving on to City Council assignment reports, and we'll start with Rishi Kumar.
Yes, there was a ministerial association meeting and last week, and one of the things that is coming up at our city is we typically have an annual tree lighting ceremony, which is the day after Thanksgiving. So the ministerial association is going to get involved with that effort, and it might get moved out to the day after. And the plan is to have a candle lighting ceremony as part of the tree lighting. And nothing changes. We will still have the tree lighting. We will still have all the carriage rides, the Chamber of Commerce wine stroll. But the ministerial association might possibly, it's still in the early stages, but that came up. We will have a candlelight ceremony, and then some choir singing as well at the tree lighting ceremony. So that is the plan. And then we also talked about the interfaith gathering that is conducted every year on the day of Thanksgiving. And so we'll have many of the members of our different religious organizations, churches, etc. will be there at the interfaith gathering, which is the day after Thanksgiving. So that's my update.
Thank you very much. Mary Lynn?
Yes, thank you. I've continued to attend the FAA Select Committee on South Bay arrivals. There was one last week on Thursday, and we will have one more in October and two more in November, with wrapping up the end of November, which will consist, we hope, of having recommendations to our congressional members regarding changes in FAA programs. And last night I attended Saratoga Sister City Organization, and I would just like to put out a push to have anyone that is interested in our Saratoga City Organization and willing to serve on the executive committee with a great group of people to please contact Peter Mara or Michael Story or Ginger Lai. And if you're interested in doing that, you can contact me, and I will put you in connection with them at mlbernald@saratoga.ca.us. There are a couple corrections on what Rishi said, and I hope, Manny, that you will follow up with that. And that's the end of my announcements.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move to Howard Miller at this time for his assignment reports, and then we'll go to Vice Mayor Emily Lowe next.
Yeah, the seating orders got everybody confused tonight. So I got some really good news to report about the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Authority. As everybody knows, the goal of this authority is to provide 100% greenhouse gas-free electricity at a price a little bit less than PG&E to the residents of our city and the surrounding cities. And there are several major hurdles and milestones. And within the last 2 weeks, 2 major milestones have been achieved. One is we've received official PUC certification. So we are now legally able to go out and buy power and enter into these agreements, which is a huge, huge milestone. That regulatory hurdle took almost 6 months. And the next largest milestone is securing funding from a bank to be able to have money to go out and go into contract for this power. And they have received the $20 million line of credit that they were seeking. And there's a couple million that are backed by some of the cities within the region. So these two things combined basically say we're in business. We've got money, and we've got the legal authority to move forward. And so there's a lot of small details that are going on. Some of the larger employers within our region have agreed to get their power from us instead of PG&E, and that is a big win. And they continue to reach out to employers. But the way this will come out next spring, residents within our city are going to start being able to get this 100% greenhouse gas-free electricity for a little bit less than PG&E. And by the end of next fall, all the citizens, except for a few that have solar whose life cycle falls after November, will have been converted. And so when you start talking about a city climate action plan, probably the single biggest change we could make right off the top is switching everybody's electricity to greenhouse gas free. And again, I just keep saying it's cheaper than PG&E, so I think that it's going to be a net win for everybody in the city. And those two milestones have been long and hard fought. And I can't even remember if it's the official meeting because I'm also on the executive committee, but both of these two meetings we've been driving this stuff forward. And then the Highway 85 Policy Advisory Board, after taking a long vacation, is sort of regrouped, and we're refocusing on future transit options for Highway 85. And as people have noted here, some of the work that's going on is dependent upon the transportation ballot measure, but it seemed there are some things that we just need to get started with right now. And just so everybody gets it, the ballot measure will ensure that if they put an extra lane out on 85 in our city, that it goes all the way north to 101, no choke point. The ballot measure would also include the 85-280 Foothill Expressway interchange and the 85-237 exchange. And the Policy Advisory Board is now looking at what the rest of the transit solutions would look like out on the corridor. Bus, light rail, express bus rapid transit, corporate buses, and some other technological solutions are all being discussed. So it's kind of an exciting time. The timeline for this analysis is from this point is approximately 2 more years. And it also includes just for us, no, just for everybody, but near and dear to my heart, complete noise mitigation plan for Highway 85 as well, from 87 all the way north to 101, which clearly include Saratoga. So anyway, the Policy Advisory Board is now getting back into gear, and we've given direction to staff to start on certain things, and I'm hopeful in the coming months there'll be some exciting alternatives and options that are being presented.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Emily Lowe.
Hello. The only note I want to make is that KSAR board has voted to have meeting every other month instead of monthly meetings. And then by that, there won't be any KSAR meeting this month in October. I just want to make note of that. And other than that, I have nothing to report.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'd like to report that as part of the West Valley mayors and managers, last week I sent an email to all West Valley mayors and council members with a call for statements of interest in the West Valley position on the VTA Board of Directors. As a reminder, the statements are due by 4 p.m. on October 28th, and statements can be sent to Debbie Breitschneider in the city's manager's office. I think just to elaborate on the tree lighting ceremony, which is now going to become a celebration of light on the evening of the Saturday following Thanksgiving. The reason it's being moved to Saturday is because of the Sabbath that many religions follow, that starts on the Friday evening and concludes on the Saturday evening. And so the Saturday evening start time of 5:30 for this is to be consistent, so that more faiths within our community can take part in this event. The only casualty, if you will, associated with the time change, the wine stroll and all that stuff that's driven by the Chamber of Commerce will continue. They weren't able to get the carriage rides to be rebooked for the Saturday, so it looks like they may not be able to have those carriage rides in place. So absent of that, everything else seems to be pretty much intact. But again, this is a last-minute change that has been thrown upon our chamber, and so we're going to be continuing to work with them to make sure that they have the support from the city as much as we possibly can in order to help them to be successful with their event as well. But again, a celebration of light to be all-inclusive, all faiths in the community. We're looking forward to possibly an interfaith choir, maybe even the Hindi music group that Rishi Kumar has offered up, as well as a children's choir. And so that with a tree lighting plus maybe possibly a menorah that will come from our Beth David congregation, and a lighting ceremony in which the leadership of ministerial as well as council and others in the community can light candles and then pass those candles lit to other members that are in attendance, and having this very symbolic gesture of unity in faith as well as in community, and hopefully it'll be a very moving and special experience for us all. So that's the intent, and again, there's a lot of work to be done in order to make sure all the details are ironed out for this, but we're certainly working to it with the help of Debbie and the city manager's office as well. So that's all I have as well. Let's move on to city council items.
Yes, I do have one.
Rishi has one. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is, seems like the safety, Saratoga safety, the break-ins have stabilized a little bit. It's kind of calmed down, but there is a petition that we have on surveillance cameras, and that URL is tinyurl.com/camera petition, and it actually just crossed the number 300. And there is some effort in the community, in fact, some next-door discussions about cameras. And, earlier in the meeting I referenced there are three components of cameras. One is placed already by our neighbors, by our citizens at their homes. That is completely driven by the homeowner. They can put cameras wherever they would like, and as long as they are not pointing to another neighbor's home, they're pointing to a street or whatever else, it's totally fine. The second component is putting it in a public land, and that's basically not really authorized right now, but with the encroachment permit, it could possibly be. So we're looking into that. But the third component is a city-sponsored camera. And this is something that I have brought up at least 3 or 4 times on the City Council. And I would like to bring it up one more time and see if someone would like to support that, because I think there is a lot of compelling evidence on this. Fremont has evidence that showed that after they put cameras, the crime seemingly dropped. And people talk about why exactly has the crime so gone a little rampant this year in Saratoga. And my explanation has always been that many other cities around us, the neighbors are a lot more alert. They have put alarm systems. They have put their different things to enhance the safety of their home and their neighborhood. And so these thieves, they are looking at the soft targets, and they have looked at Saratoga. Fremont actually put cameras, city-sponsored surveillance cameras that actually statistically is showing that crime seemingly dropped. Moraga has done that. There are a few cities in Southern California that have done that. And there are reports that are published. I think the petition also references that seemingly the crime is dropped. Now, we are, there is this time of the year, we have seen a little spike in crime activities over the years. And a couple years back, I think back in 2014, there were like a significant number of burglaries at which we decided to have a crime safety forum. And I'm kind of bracing a little bit. I hope that we don't have a spike in crime, but the fact that the crime has subsided in the last few weeks does not mean that we don't take action. So my take is, I would love to get the support of someone on the City Council so that we can put it on the agenda for us to evaluate, how can we apply, how can we look at different options to put a city-sponsored camera. When I look at the cost component, there is a neighborhood in Saratoga that actually placed 7 cameras, 4K cameras, at 3 different entry points of their community at a cost of $40,000. Actually, $30,000. So it's about $4,000 per camera, a total of $30,000. So its capital investment is not a whole lot, but since the time they did that, they haven't seen a whole lot of break-ins that they were experiencing before, because now they also have signs. So it has significantly enhanced. Now, right now, in all the neighborhood meetings I've been having, there is a lot of angst, especially if someone's home was broken into. There is a lot of angst in terms of, yes, I'm doing my little bit. Our law enforcement is patrolling, they're doing their little bit, but what is the City Council doing? And this is our opportunity to take some concrete steps. So when I look at the Traffic and Safety Commission presentation, I think that was very well done by David. And some of the key findings from that was outreach needs to be done. And yes, and that's the reason why I took this to the people and had 30 neighborhood meetings, just from an outreach perspective and getting the word out there that yes, we have a challenge, but this is what we need to do. We need to lock our fence gates, we need to lock our mailboxes, we need to lock our electrical panels, just to fortify our homes. So those are the kind of ideas, and so the Traffic and Safety Commission was right on. We're talking about magnets. When you see something, say something, okay, magnets on the fridge, yes, good idea. We are talking about neighborhood safety watch programs. Now, this is something that we have had for many years, but they have basically brought this to focus, and we are doing a few things as part of that. So, it's good, but I think our city can do a lot more, is what I have talked about on the day of the meeting and the following meeting where we actually reference the work plan. My take is our City Council can do a lot more. And one of the things that I would like to reference is in reference to the petition, the camera petition. 300 signatures already. I think this will increase over time. I would like to put this on agenda so that we can all confer and figure out, what is the scope of implementing something like this. And nobody's talking about pointing this at a neighbor's home or wherever. We are talking about some key strategic entry points of Saratoga where we are putting cameras that would be available for law enforcement for the purpose to basically be a deterrent, but also in case there is crime activity happening, the ability for us to go out and nab these guys after the fact, before the fact, whatever happens, license plate readers, but we need to invest in some technology to make it happen. And I would love to see if someone would like to second me on this. I think this has been bubbling. There's a lot of talk on this, but it's time to take some action now.
Okay, are there any others? Marilyn, you had an item that you had raised earlier.
I do have a council item, and that is agendizing for the future a discussion on beekeeping within Saratoga. I second.
Okay, we have an item and seconded by Emily. Is that correct? Okay, all right, very good.
Just a point of clarification, I think beekeeping is already allowed. So whatever report we get should include under what conditions beekeeping is allowed.
Yeah, and also Montessorino had recently updated their ordinance, so maybe we can take a look at what they've done and see if there's anything that's relevant to Saratoga.
That's what I was speaking to. Thank you, Manny.
Yes, great, thank you. Are there any others? Any other council items? Okay, we'll move on then to City Manager's report.
Thank you. Nothing to report this evening.
A courtesy to our City Attorney.
Nothing to report.
All right, very good. How about a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I think you have to do roll call on this one, too.
Yeah, let's do roll call just to confirm.
Otherwise, we're stuck here all night.
Yeah.
Councilmember Kumar?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Aye.
Councilmember Bernald?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lowe?
Aye.
And Mayor Capello?
Aye. All right, very good. Thank you very much, everyone.